All right, it's the end of the session. Cagney would be here, but she's drinking some water right now. She's going to walk through here in a minute. This is her roadmap to success. She's a great dog, but I can tell that she has cortisol in her blood, which is a stress hormone. I can identify that in dogs because dogs have what we call efficiency of movement. They snap their head around. They're very jittery. They're very jumpy. She bumped into this lamp and she jumped up a little bit. So that's cortisol is a stress hormone. It helps us, but like in a dangerous situation. But people who are in a long period of time can develop PTSD, and dogs can absolutely develop PTSD. And it becomes a physical manifestation as well as just psychological. So it's multiple things to deal with. So if you do notice that she's really twitchy and jittery like that, take note of your environment, whatever's around that's different or new that she's targeting or staring at or could be different. Take her away from that item. Do that focus exercise that I showed you. Wait for her to relax and calm down even more. And then once she's calm, you can try to get her closer and closer to it. There was Cagney, and get her closer and closer to it. And remember, if she gets stiff or she stops taking the treat or she's breathing heavy or she's licking her lips, these could all be signs that she's approaching her limit. And once she's reactive, you push too far. The whole point when you're modifying dog behavior is to help the dog practice the new behavior, which means you have to create scenarios and situations. The Guardian just did something really good there. You have to create scenarios and situations where your dog feels comfortable, where you can control the elements. Teaching a dog to be not afraid of people on Venice Beach is a horrible place because there's a massive humanity. People are going to be doing all sorts of stuff. So for this house, because she's reacted to people, the video that we have above goes through a medley of different things that you can do. I would go through your phones and find people that you haven't seen for a while. Just say, hey, we haven't seen you forever. We had a dog psychologist come by and said we actually have to practice. Our dog needs to meet some positive people. Have some positive interactions. You can help. We'll get a nice bottle of wine. Why don't you come over for dinner and we'll talk a little, talk dog. You can meet, see the new place. That person is in on it with you. You can send them a link to this write-up and watch the video above, and they know what to do before they even come in the door. So that's going to help them feel more comfortable and relaxed. Now, one other thing we talked, I don't think we talked about above, but the Guardians here occasionally have workers and people at the house, and she likes to bark and lunge at them, or just doesn't like them being here. So what we could do is do a little bit of what we talked about above, is that click for look sort of deal. Take her far away, make sure she's not reacting, then get her as close as you can and do those click for looks. And then if she starts getting to the point where she doesn't want to take the treat, doesn't want to sit down, you're getting close to her breaking point. Take her away, give her a little bit of a break, then come back and try again. But it might be a situation where you just have this sets of workers. We're just going to practice clicking for looks at this distance for like 1.5 minutes. Then we're going to go for a walk, come back, and we're going to go to a different part of the house so she can just settle down while they continue working. Remember, it's going to be it's not a sprint, it's a long-term race. So creating scenarios. It's like I said, if you can go through your phone and find people that she hasn't met, friends that you haven't seen for a while, those are the best opportunities to create for this. So we talked a little bit about exercise. She actually goes to daycare, and so she gets probably pretty good exercise, but I went through some creative ways of exercising the dog, like throwing treats up and down the stairs, playing fetch. Playing fetch led us to she doesn't have a great drop. And so the way to teach that is when she's got things in her mouth that she's not holding on to, she's got them exclusively in her mouth, quietly pull out a treat, go over, hold it in front of her nose, but don't tell her to do anything. Just hold it there. And after, she'll try to take it with the object in her mouth. Eventually, she drop the item cautiously. Don't show any interest in it. Put the treat in her mouth, and then you can sit back down or move away or whatever it is, and she gets original stuff back. After you shape that enough with lower value items, she should be able to do it with anything. Now, the one thing I forgot to go over in the video above is bully sticks. I would recommend you get some bully sticks from the Natural Dog Company. Those are the odor-free ones. And when you do have those workers come over, maybe do some click for looks. If you have workers come over, I would maybe take her a half day of daycare first. Then bring her over and do some click for looks. You could have the workers take a little break and throw the treats towards and have her practice approaching them. And once you're done for that, once you're done with whatever you're going to do, have one of the workers try to give her the bully stick. Now, handing it to her like this is going to be harder than if they crouch down and hold it off to the side. And you might have to actually have them throw a treat halfway distance between her and them, have her rep a couple times, then after she does that a couple times, then hold the treat, the bully stick out to the side. She takes that, gets to go away, and gets to chew on that. Chewing is a natural behavior for dogs when they're stressed out, so giving them appropriate things to chew on is a wonderful way for them to channel some of that frustration. One of my dog's favorite things to get are kneecaps from cows. And you can get those at higher end dog stores. Bully sticks is what we've been using, but also you can use tracheas, you can use cow's ears, cow cheeks. There's something called no hide. You don't want to use rawhide. Rawhides are soaked in bleach, formaldehyde, which is a human embalming fluid, and ammonia. And because the dogs ingest them, they lead to a lot of health issues. 1 of every 2 dogs dies of cancer. And so we want to try to be particular about what our dog eats. Speaking of cancer, carrots and broccoli both have cancer-fighting properties to them. So every time that I give my dogs a carrot once a week, and prophylactically, and then once a month I get broccoli and demolish on top of the food. And so that way we get that prophylactic protection. What I mentioned that the guardian liked earlier is he was reaching to pet for the dog. He was petting her, and then she adjusted, and he reached for her, and she kind of shimmied away, and he stopped. He listened. And we always think that because what we're doing is a positive thing in petting, it's okay to do it under any circumstances. If your partner is having a bad day, and you come up to give them like tussle their hair or their shoulders, like stop it. You're trying to help them, but they're not ready for it. And if you continue trying to do it, sometimes you actually do need to push them through it. But usually we'd say, okay, well, let's get out of the house. Let's go go for a ride in the canyon. Let's go do something else. But if you just keep on forcing them to do this because it's a positive thing, we rubbing your shoulders, I don't want you rubbing my shoulders. And it just creates a resentment. So the more we communicate with our dog and listen to our dog, the more comfortable they feel with us, the more confident they are with us. Now, I'd like the guardians to get in a habit of being students of their dog a little bit. When you're hanging out at home and she's very relaxed and she's comfortable and she's in what we call a neutral position, I want you to notice, what are her ears doing? Where are they positioned? How are they positioned off the side? Are they laying this way or that way? What is her head doing? Is her nose up? Is her nose down? Does she have her mouth open? Is she breathing heavy? Is her body stiff or is it relaxed? Where is her tail? And after a while, you start to recognize what her neutral position is when she's balanced and relaxed and there's no problems. Then start contrasting that when she gets excited. Not as excited, happy. What is she doing? She has a little bit of a bounce in her step. She carries her head a little bit higher. Her ears are doing this, her tail is doing that. Once you can recognize neutral and happy, then if you're out and about or you're at home and you see some of the deviations from that, her tail went down, her ears went back. Well, now we can start recognizing she's uncomfortable, and then we can get her out of that situation, or we can use some counter conditioning to help her practice being around it. One of the exercises I showed the guardians was a counter conditioning exercise because we have a special doorbell, and the doorbell makes a special sound, and she reacts and goes to the door. I think she thinks she's in charge of security around here. So we can do the process of both desensitization as well as counter conditioning. So desensitization is triggering the response when nobody's there and nobody gets up to go to the door. So when you're watching TV and it's relaxed, just pull it out every once in a while and chime it. And so if you can recreate the sound. And then the dog hears it and barks and runs to the door, but no, you don't do anything. After a while, well, this is a boy who cried wolf. There's nothing there. Now, at the same time, we can do the counter conditioning. And remember, I do it a little bit different. So first, you're going to smash that treat, let her chew on 1 or 2. And then after that, then you're going to let her start chewing on it and then ring the doorbell and while she's already chewing on the treat. You only do that a couple times because eventually what we want to get to, and then eventually exclusively how you would practice this, is you ring the chime, then give her the treat. And then ring the chime, and then after a while, ring the chime and wait a half a second before you give her the treat, then 1 second. You don't have to prolong it too long. Don't push it too far, maybe 1-2 seconds. But the idea is now the doorbell ringing means I'm about to get a treat. Instead of thinking as a negative or charging the door, I'm just going to sit right here and come straight to the tap of the source of the treats. You do the same thing with the doorbell, knocking at the door. There's a lot of different sounds that the dogs react to that you can use this. I've had a lot of clients where there's a special gate sound, makes a squeaky sound, so people open the door, the dog triggers that. You can do the same sort of thing. Okay, we talked about, so for exercise, you can throw the treats up and down the stairs. One thing I forgot to go over, we'll see right now if she wants to do this, is a lot of dogs, oh, here it is. I pulled it out, I don't think, I didn't try this, did I? So this is a flashlight that has a laser with it. And so let's see if she's interested. Oh, her ears came up. So some dogs will chase a laser, and she definitely seems to be one of those categories. There we go. Now, some dogs should not chase a laser. It's not healthy for them. She seems appropriate. So if your dog starts acting like it's on crack, that's probably not a good dog for this. Some dogs, they get frustrated. But I have a woman in the Midwest that comes to my house and during the wintertime, sits in my living room or in my kitchen, and through the window has my dogs running laps in the backyard chasing a little red dot. Now, when you do it, make sure it's a gradual, put it right in front of the dog's nose. Don't make it really herky-jerky because the dogs will lose interest in it. And also be careful it doesn't go in your eyes or the dog's eyes, obviously. Also, a lot of these, this is a flashlight that also has a laser in it, so it's a constant on. Well, a lot of them are laser only on when you're holding it down. It makes a clicking sound. Well, that click can become an associated sound. So if that's the case, then just pull the batteries out when you're watching TV. Every once in a while, click it, put it down. 10 minutes later, click it again. Like, where's the little red dot? Oh, okay. So then they start looking for it. And if the dog looks up here and sees it here, she'll think it jumped off the floor and went here, and she won't look at the floor. So always cap it or turn it off when she looks up here. So that's another nice way to exercise her. Another thing you do is scent games. Scent games is basically Cabo is leaving treats in kind of pretty easy to find but not visually obvious places. And then the dog comes in, and every time it licks one up, you say seek, find, search, hunt, whatever the word is you want to use. And after a while, that becomes a nice game for them to do. Some people do hide and seek with their dogs, not the same sort of deal, but that helps the dog feel more comfortable. Now, I like to use, or the guardian's asking her to sit, what I'd like him to do is hold his hand like this and sell it like you have a marble in it or a treat. Go parallel with her nose and then go overhead. Arc overhead. Overhead, you're going up. There you go. So down, there you go. And as soon as she sits down, so pull it back down in front of her nose and then go over her head and arc. She's not wanting to cooperate right now. And part of it might be because I'm here. She's also a little bit in the corner. But that passive training will really help with that. So I like to use my hand like this. I curl my fingertips up so you can see that you can't see what I have in my hand. And then if I lower it to get the dog to come to me, and once the dog where I want, then I raise it an arc, like think of a crescent shape over their head. Not just vertical, not horizontal, at a curve. And that usually, so raise your hand, keep it, there you go. Here, let's do it actually. And it's better if you do this initially with treats, and eventually you can do it without treats. So there you go. And your hand, if it's closed, it's not for the dog. So you want to keep it open, just slightly cupped. And then you kind of go with that arc over the dog's head. As soon as it sits, lower your hand. So all you have to do is tilt their head down, let him lick it off, and then tickle under their chin and say come or sit or whatever the command word is. So speaking of which, we talked about passive training and petting with a purpose. Petting with a purpose is if the dog comes up and nudges me or paws at me or barks for attention, she's actually doing, I think she's already on the second stage, which is what we call manding, which she comes up and sits in front of her guardians who are saying, I'd like you to pet me, which is what we want her to do. So if she does that, try to pet her at least once. If you think she just coincidentally went there and now she wants a pet, then ask her to lie down and ask her once. If she doesn't do it, then show her I got other things to do. The world does not revolve around Cagney. She kind of thinks it does. And the more you show her, if our partner goes out of town, we miss our partner. We miss that encounter and that interaction and all the rest of that fun stuff that comes with their presence. So that absence makes the heart grow fonder. Well, if you date someone out of your league and you let them treat you like crap because you think that you just are lucky to have them, they're going to treat you like crap. So you want them, but if you think that you have something that you might have lost it, then it becomes very precious and endearing for you. So same thing for her. So if she thinks, wow, they're not just petting me ad nauseum, I have to earn these pets, she's going to continue to prepay which is what she's already doing. And so when the dog does that, that's a very polite way of asking for attention. But again, if you're not sure, just ask her to do something else to earn it. After a while, she kind of starts to have that mindset of I have to ask my humans as opposed to telling them. Now, remember to use the word paycheck if you suspect someone's petting without a purpose. Even if that person was doing it right, they have to stop petting, tell the dog to sit or lie down, pet him under the chin, remember for that nose up, and then to tell our partner, actually, I asked her to sit and you stood up, or when you slammed the door, she stood up and I continued petting her. Now, I also go through something called passive training. Passive training is waiting for the dog to organically offer you the behavior on its own without any influence. Every time your dog comes to you, you should pet it and say, come. Every time it sits down in front of you, pet it and say sit. Every time it lays down, pet it and say down. Lays down outside, call it flop. Brings you a toy, name all your individual toys. So ideally, eventually, the dog has this nice, rich vocabulary and we can communicate what's going on. Most of us use too many versions of a word. Come here, come here, over here, here, girl. It's a lot for dogs to memorize. It's easier for us to just come up with a single command word. So come up with a list of the official command words Tape it to your fridge or the wall somewhere. And if somebody's using a different version of the word, say vocabulary. That person's saying, thank you, come, or whatever the word is. So I also use testify as my command word or watchword for for passive training. So every time the dog does something and I miss it, one of my partners is going to tell me testify, and then I reach over and pet the dog and start acknowledging the dog for doing these desired behaviors. The more you pet your dog for them, the more your dog's going to want to offer those behaviors. And eventually, like I talked for petting with a purpose, the dog will start offering them for you. Now, if she won't sit and you have guests here, that's probably more an indication that she's not comfortable sitting near the guest. And it might take 2 or 3, at first, it might take 2, 3, 5 visits for the guest before she's really in that friend zone. But what you should start seeing is as you practice more and more, you're needing less and less interactions, less treats, and she's just getting more and more comfortable with it. So it's very much you'll carry momentum. So I'd like to see if you guys can do it. I understand, I think there's some traveling or something that's going to go on this week. But once you get back, try to set a goal for doing it like 2 or 3 times a week, having a new guest come over. The more you practice, the faster it goes. What most people do is they kind of do it as, I'll do a little bit here, a little bit there, and then it kind of wanes, and then you get away from it. Jump into the pool with both feet. Really try to make a commitment. You know what? Every day. Your day today, my day tomorrow. Every day we're going to have somebody coming by. We're going to do this for 2 weeks straight. So every day she gets that practice, having people come over, getting positive interactions, and that will accelerate your process. A lot of people have this sort of problem, just kind of do it willy-nilly, or a lot of people just don't have anybody come to their house. That's called maintenance. That can help the problem not get worse, but it's not going to help it get better. We want to do both in this case. I'd rather have the guardians create stage scenarios and start building up those positive interactions so she actually starts saying, "We haven't anybody over here today. Who's coming next?" All right, we also, some of the rules that we went over, not being allowed in the furniture is kind of one she already has, but she only gets up kind of occasionally, so it shouldn't be too hard to enforce. Remember, you can get those letter X, M-A-T-S, if you need to, but I don't think you guys will need to. Remember to toss the treats in the dog bed and call it Cabo like we talked. First is to toss, second is to leave, third one is to alert, tell her to go there and sit or lie down and give her the treat. But then after a while, when she goes on her own, if you have a treat, give her the treat. Or get up and go give her a scratch, and if you can't do that, at least say the word Cabo every time she goes there. I'd also use passive training for eating and for drinking. So every time she drinks, call it Merlot or whatever your favorite wine is. Every time she eats, call it chimichanga or whatever your favorite food is. And so naming all your toys, that just makes, like I said, a richer vocabulary. Now for rules, make sure that you are eating something before you feed her. So all I have to do is make 5 bites of a chip or a cracker, preferably something crunchy, and then give her permission to eat. When she takes her first bite of food, call it sushi or whatever you want to call it. So that way the dog sees you eating first. That really helps you look more like a leader to the dog. Remember, another rule is that dog has to sit before we let it in or out of the door. We go to the door and I say sit 1 time. If the dog doesn't sit within 3 seconds, I sit down somewhere nearby. It's important for you to sit down. If you stand, you look like you're waiting on the dog. But sit nearby so I can still see you. And then wait 1 minute. After 1 minute, go back to the door and say sit again. If she doesn't sit within 3 seconds, I walk away and sit down for 2 minutes, next time for 4 minutes, then for 8 minutes. Keep double the length of time until eventually, when you say sit, she sits down immediately. And as soon as she sits, you fly that door open as fast as you possibly can. At first, do it whatever direction she really wants. If she wants inside because she did outside, start it within her outside. If she really wants to go outside when you're inside, start it then. But eventually do it both directions. And eventually I would do it, even if you're going to Starbucks or a pet store or wherever it is, make her sit before you go through that door. And if she doesn't sit, just stand there and wait. This is why you want to do it at home, so you can sit down and watch some TV and be comfortable. If you're doing it at Petco or Starbucks, you're just kind of sitting there waiting, and now you're waiting with the dog. And also, don't be afraid to play hard to get. So if you're doing petting with a purpose and you tell her to sit and she doesn't sit, show her you got other things going on. The more you ask her over and over again and keep on, she's like, I got them wrapped around my finger. They're going to do whatever I want. You either jump on board with us or you're going to be left behind. After a while, she'll come along with you guys because she doesn't want to be left behind. Let me see. Other rules. She shouldn't be allowed in the kitchen when you're eating. She shouldn't be allowed around 7 feet around anybody who's eating, unless you're eating here in the dog bed. We talked about this is okay. Let me see. We went over a focus exercise. If you can't find that one, go to dogonprobs.com, click on dog training tips. I guess I won't have it here. Just click on dog training tips. On a phone, at the bottom of the page, there's a search box. On a laptop, on the right side of the page, there's a search box. Just type in focus. I bet you I have hundreds of videos of the focus, and it'll show you how to do it. Remember, you want to get to within 7 days, 15-second focus inside the house. Then within 2 or 3 days outside, 7-second focus. Then you're going to start cueing it verbally when you're on walks. And then when your dog is stressed out and you've mastered the exercise, don't try to use it to cool her out until you've gotten to the point where you can get a 15-second walk while you're walking and she's looking up at you. Then when you have construction people come over, she's beefing, take her away, take her outside, wait for her to settle down. When she does, do a couple of focuses, then get her a little bit closer, do a couple more focuses. So each time you get a little closer, they think she might react, that's where you stop and do a couple of focuses. And it's just great because after a while, she's like looking and you say, focus. Oh, I'll come over to you and get a treat. So you can use it to get the dog's attention as well, but the way that I show it is a nice way of reducing production of cortisol in the dog's blood. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we went over that I need to go over here with you. The drop, I think I already talked about. I think that's pretty much it. So what I'd like you guys to do is really focus on this stuff for about a month. We might need to set up another situation where we come back and do some other techniques and do a little bit more bat training. I don't think we're going to need to, but keep my phone number in your phone. So if you have any questions or problems, I'd rather you call me or text me too much than not enough. If I don't hear from you, I assume everything's going great. Well, normally I would say this is Cagney, and these are Cagney. This is Cagney's roadmap to success, but Cagney is snoozing, and she's had a long day, so we're going to let her snooze. I'm going to Malibu to watch some reggae. So this is Cagney's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.